When Apple unveiled iOS 7, Tim Cook called it the biggest change since the iPhone. The OS received a number of major visual and interaction overhauls, along with a slew of new features. Still, there are a number of things I'd like to see Apple change by the time iOS 8 rolls around in 2014, so let's go ahead and begin. A feature that's long overdue to come to iOS is the ability to create a guest or child account. Now, Apple's mantra is that everyone should own their own device, and that's lovely, but not everyone has as much money as an Apple board member. OS X style user accounts are unlikely, but it really can't be beyond Apple to provide a single tap child account or a guest account that doesn't affect your settings and data, and doesn't retain settings or data of its own. Now, as far as iOS app management, this is another thing that's really overdue for an overhaul. As of iOS 7, Apple automates app updates, but it really should go even further. Developers wrestle with iCloud app data, but this really should be child's play to save and also to restore whenever you reinstall an app. And the App Store itself should offer trials and paid version updates, rather than developers being forced to use IAP or replacement apps as a workaround. Now, on the subject of apps, another thing that Apple should add in iOS 8 is stronger inter-app communications. One of the weakest elements of iOS is inter-app communication. If a service bumps you to another app, you're not always returned when you're finished performing an action. Worse, when making document edits across several apps, workflow can be a nightmare with document copies in various states strewn throughout individual app sandboxes. This should be a very easy feature for Apple to add, and I really hope they do. Now, following on from the previous point, iOS should also integrate at least some kind of centralized access to documents. Right now, Dropbox is a surrogate file system because really iCloud isn't much at all. It's absurd that you can't easily attach documents within Mail in an OS that boasts a version number of 7. The lack of collaboration opportunities within an iCloud document workflow is also disappointing. Now, a feature that isn't specifically tied to iOS but also needs an update is FaceTime. Apple's mobile platform is where FaceTime began life, and although the one-to-one model is great, it's about time you could call several people at once rather than as a group having to crowd around one iPhone. Now, as far as notifications, in OS X Mavericks, notifications are interactive. Get a message and you can deal with it there and then, rather than having to leave the app you're in. This is even more important on iOS, and I really hope Apple adds similar functionality on mobile. Google already does it, and I just really want Apple to do the same. Now, Do Not Disturb gained extra power in iOS 7, enabling you to silence notifications only when a device is locked. Bizarrely, it still retains only a single schedule though. Is it beyond Apple to enable you to set at least one schedule for weekdays and a separate one for weekends? This is a feature that should really come to iOS 8. Now, Apple's text selection, cut, copy, and paste seemed elegant when it was first introduced, but only compared to disastrous equivalents on competing mobile systems. Today it comes across as awkward, and it's a barrier to usability for far too many people. I'd really like to see a rethink from Apple and a more usable and intuitive way of dealing with text. Now, the last feature this is probably one of the major features that really needs to be in iOS 8 is 2-up apps. Now, I love the focus iOS provides, but there are times when I'd really like to work with 2 apps at once. Much like messing with default apps, I doubt Apple will go down this path, but OS X Mavericks now has a more powerful full-screen mode for multiple monitors. Perhaps there's the slightest hope that a multi-screen mode may one day arrive for the iPad or a larger iPhone, and would be one in the eye for all those Samsung owners out there. Windows and Android have both beat Apple when it comes to having multiple apps open at the same time, and Apple really should add this feature to iOS if they're really wanting to please their productivity users. Now, let me know if there are any other features you want to see in iOS 8 in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!